Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Bernstein. I'm an academic liaison at the Breakthrough Institute and the editor-in-chief of the UC Press journal Case Studies in the Environment. My talk today is called It's Not an Apocalypse, Communicating Climate Change in a Good Anthropocene. And I might be looking the wrong direction, so forgive me. So in the popular media, climate change is characterized as an apocalypse, right? This is no surprise. For one, the Earth is warming at an unprecedented rate, and we should get to net zero as quickly as possible. Natural disasters, many of them made worse by climate change, grip the public imagination. And in the media, the gripping images are also accompanied by a call to action. We have these limits, right? 1.5 by 2025, a one-to-one ecological footprint, staying within planetary boundaries. The implication is that unless we change our ways at a particular point, the future will be a climate-fueled catastrophe. But lucky for us, it's more complicated than it seems. So in this talk, I want to talk a little bit about how these tipping points are actually creations of a particular time and place, and framing climate as an ongoing but manageable problem versus an apocalypse will ultimately better address our common goals. So one of these tipping points is the ecological footprint. So to calculate it with the global footprint, uses 6 mutually exclusive land use categories, which are identified using remote sensing, satellite imagery, that kind of stuff. However, when you get into it, the actual calculations get problematic. At a global scale, all but one of these land use categories, when aggregated, essentially break even. So they kind of wash each other out. According to my colleague Linus Bloomquist, forest cover ends up being the only metric. So if you follow the math, a sustainable EF metric could be achieved globally by planting an area half the size of the US in eucalyptus trees. But is that the world that we want? Another one of these tipping points is the idea of planetary boundaries. This is the concept that there are 9 biophysical factors which serve as hard boundaries after which dramatic environmental change will occur, affecting human welfare and ecosystem functioning. The idea is undeniably appealing in its clarity, but planetary can be problematic with respect to scale. So while climate change, which is one of the 9 factors, is global in scope, other control variables such as freshwater use are highly variable across time and space. Also, thinking about climate change as a global emergency simply doesn't, nor will it ever square with people's expectations. They will experience weather events that might resemble what they think of as climate change and are partially caused by it, but are actually connected to a number of factors. So whether we like it or not, climate change will make some places better and others worse, and the impact is not going to be universal. My colleague Patrick Brown stated, research on climate society should not have an inordinate focus on identifying and highlighting negative climate impacts at the expense of studying the effectiveness of solutions that can help people today. And then perhaps, less important is that studies have shown that feeling scared, doomed, or helpless does not motivate long-term action. In favor of avoiding these emotions, one might reject the science itself. Fear often motivates support for established institutions rather than invoke more risk in instability. The logical implication, not often stated, is that if we don't hit carbon emissions target by a single deadline, we might as well give up. Apocalyptic rhetoric from a social science perspective will not involve the types of momentum needed to address climate change. The consequences? Polarization. There's a good and a bad. Escapism. And so there's this social psychological aspect to all of this. This is Hannah Ritchie. And if we want to speak accurately about climate science and motivate social change, We should not speak about it apocalyptically. We should not minimize its severity or impacts or the need for society to change, but we should speak about climate as we do other social problems, ongoing, manageable, and demanding of humanity to be its best. It will be messages of slow optimism, not rapid catastrophism, that will create the forces to address climate change at multiple scales. And I love this Hannah Ritchie quote: setting aside the moral problem of stretching the truth, the claim is wrong. Scaring people into action doesn't work. This is not just true for climate change, air pollution, but any issue we can think of. We need optimism to make progress. Yet that alone is not enough. To contend with environmental crises and make life better for everyone, we need the right kind of optimists, those who recognize that the world will only improve if we fight for it. I love this Max Roser quote: the world is better than it was and can be better than it is. And as Hannah said, optimistic but dissatisfied is the road to progress. Thank you for listening. This is my CV if you want to learn more about kind of what I do. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.